Sadly, Cooper DeJean was not selected in the first round of the NFL draft. It leads to the question, who is going to be the Hawkeyes' next first-round draft pick? We talk about that, plus some buzz happening in the portal, including at the quarterback position. We talk about it today. Locked On Hawkeyes.
You are Locked On Hawkeyes, your daily podcast on the Iowa Hawkeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, welcome in. I'm Trent Condon, and this is the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. Thanks for making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen every day. We're available wherever you find podcasts, and you can find us on YouTube. While you're there, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Helps us get in front of more Hawkeye fans. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150 win or lose. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Well, the first round of the NFL draft has come and gone. Cooper DeJean was not selected after being mocked by most every quote-unquote draft expert out there. He did not hear his name called. Certainly disappointing for Cooper DeJean, a guy that we've talked about so much, enjoyed his very brief career with the Iowa Hawkeyes. Basically, we didn't even get 2 full seasons out of him. Played very late at the quarterback position his freshman year, and of course didn't get a full final season, his junior campaign this past year. However, goes to this question. Cooper, stinks for him. He's going to hear his name selected. He'll have the opportunity. And I'm going to bet that he turns out to have a very nice career. That aside, got this question last night. Who is going to be Iowa's next first-round draft pick? And you kind of look around, and you think about it, and you dive in a little bit deeper. And there's a ton of different directions that you can go with this one. You look at the guys that are coming back, right? The 6-year guys, 5th and 6th year guys, the guys that have the accolades, have the All-American, All-Conference honors, those kind of players. The unfortunate part, when you look at that group, is there just aren't many guys that are the quote-unquote need position at the next level. And as we've seen in the evolution of football, your running backs, your inside backers, those types of players just are not selected very high, even safeties. So those are positions that you kind of take off the board. You look at what Iowa's done and the guys that they've been able to have as first-round draft picks. You're talking about tight ends. You're talking about defensive line. And that's likely where we're going to end up in today's conversation. Now, at the top, you definitely have to bring up Luke Lachey. Luke Lachey, of course, his season was cut down a year ago. We saw he was on his way to putting together just a monster season. I mean, it really felt like he was going to be the type of guy that was going to be able to hold the offense together. 2 years ago, really nice season as he was playing the 2 tight end sets with him and Sam Laporta. Had 28 catches that year, averaged 14.2 yards per reception, and had 4 touchdowns to lead the team 2 seasons ago. And then in just a couple of games, 7 catches against Utah State, 3 against Iowa State for 58 yards. And then the injury came in the win against Western Michigan, and his season came to a close. Now, he still ended up being one of the leading receivers for Iowa football a year ago. How sad is that? A guy that didn't even play 2.5 games was one of the leading receivers, but that's what we went through a year ago. When you talk about Luke Lachey, there's a couple of different things. Obviously, we've seen him in limited action compared to some of the others. He's a big play tight end. He is a guy that can stretch the field. Well, how big is he? He's huge. He's 6'6", 253. People in the know will tell you that athletically, in terms of the drills, all the things that he is going to have to do, he's going to be a warrior when he gets to Indianapolis in the NFL Draft Combine. In fact, if he would have gone this year, a lot of people believe not a first rounder, probably not even a second, but third, at minimum 4th round for Luke Lachey this past season. With the new look offense this year, what kind of numbers can he put up? You know, if we're talking about something in the range of 45 to 50 catches, you know, something like 550 to 600 yards, something like that, 6 to 8 touchdowns, look out. Again, we're guessing about this offense and what it is and what it's going to be. But Luke Lachey definitely is a guy, because it's not just he's an Iowa tight end that helps. It's because there is a lot more to Luke Lachey. Size, versatility. He can be an inline guy. You can split him out, and you can play him outside too. He has that kind of versatility, And that's what you're looking at the tight end position. So that's the easiest answer. Luke Lachey is going to be the next first-round pick for the Iowa Hawkeyes. Couple of other guys that bear mentioning. I talked about this one, I believe, earlier in the week, every day, as you remember. Deontay Craig, I thought, was a guy that was going to have a big decision this past year, and it was a very disappointing junior campaign for Craig. Didn't get to the quarterback at the same level we saw. He was banged up throughout the course of the year. What if he really bursts onto the scene? He puts together a monster year this year. I don't know if he's got the quick twitch kind of muscle that you normally see out of an edge rusher at the next level. Also is going to be an outside or defensive end, in the 4-3 scheme and kind of limited in that space. I don't see him being an outside backer in a 3-4. We'll see about that. Something that obviously we haven't seen during his career in Iowa City. But at the minimum, just want to mention the name. Speaking of defensive line, how about this one? Y.A. Black. So Y.A., we heard about him right when he showed up on campus. He's huge. He's a monster. The way that he played in the back half of the year after the shoulder injury really opened my eyes. And maybe a spot. I mean, with the size that he has, 6'5", 310 pounds, that plug-and-play guy in the middle. He's shown the athleticism, the ability to get to the football, to make plays. And that's something difficult to do in the Iowa scheme. And the way they play defensively for a defensive tackle to make plays, there's another one you at least maybe got to think about a little bit if he could be a guy that can make that kind of jump. Defensive tackle, there aren't a ton of them that are taken early on, but YA is one of the players I would, at minimum, I think you got to mention with him this past season, what he was able to do and the versatility that he played with. Get to the quarterback, probably a little bit more. Defensive tackle, maybe looking more in the range of 7-8 sacks if he can put together a season like that and double up the tackles for loss, go along that route. He had 3.5 last season. Double that, couple of forced fumbles, maybe, just maybe. He also had 5 pass breakups a year ago. I get it down from him, but really improved as the season went on, and he finished last year with 51 tackles. Got the size, definitely, and the athleticism. Y.A. Black, another guy that we throw into the mix. A few other players that bear mentioning of who Iowa's next first-round NFL draft pick is going to be. We're talking defense. Look, Jay Higgins, Nick Jackson, it doesn't matter how good those guys are. They're inside backers. Those guys are not selected anymore in the first round of the NFL draft. How about Sebastian Castro? I mean, after what we've seen here tonight and Cooper DeJean not being selected, this one I think is really, really interesting because Castro is versatile. You look at some of the numbers from Pro Football Focus and the way that they grade him, they consider him a cornerback. Well, he's not really a cornerback. He plays safety from time to time. He shifts down when they go to a traditional 4-3 and they bring an extra linebacker out on the field. Then he slides back. At least they did that a season ago. And Wampa was off the field last year when that happened. And it was Schulte and Castro as your 2 safeties. I don't think you can get there, but probably not. Still, one heck of a football player, and happy to have him back in a Hawkeye uniform next season. So we've talked a whole lot about defenders. And down the line, could there be another one there? Think of a Brian Allen, really like the potential that he has to be able to do one of those things. Could it be one of the young defensive backs, John Nestor? A lot of buzz about him. Could it be a Cohen Entringer down the line? We're talking down the line definitely when we're talking about those kind of players, but a few of the other names that are definitely out there. Reese Dakin, probably not going to happen for the putter as we await to hear Torrey Taylor's name called here. 4th round? Think that's what it's going to be? Potentially in the 4th round. How about offensively? Well, I mentioned Luke Lachey at the top, and then good luck. Good luck finding somebody that you believe can be a first rounder. Of all the guys coming back on the offensive line, you don't see a first rounder there. I don't see any way that you could see a Mason Richmond, a Jennings Dunker, Connor Colby, Logan Jones. None of those guys are going to be first round NFL draft picks. Quarterback spot, no. With Cade McNamara, he's not a first rounder. Come on. He'll be lucky to even be drafted. How about this? What about Caleb Johnson? And it's something that I bring up from time to time. I think every day, as you know, my affinity for Caleb Johnson, that size power combination that he has with the speed that we saw early in his career during his freshman campaign is just so intriguing. I don't believe that Iowa's had many of the running backs that have that kind of combination that Caleb Johnson has. Now, what's it going to take? Well, first of all, he's going to be sharing time this year with LaShawn Williams. In fact, LaShawn is probably going to be the starter and that one. Maybe, just maybe, though. I keep bringing up that first touchdown run he had in the late night game against Nevada, where he was clocked in one of those crazy metrics where they can actually measure how fast a guy's actually running, like in miles per hour. And he was one of the fastest for a running back that season. That was as a 215-pound freshman. I just think there's so much upside to Caleb Johnson. It's a long shot. Iowa hasn't had a first-round running back since, Nick Bell? Am I missing somebody? Sean Green was not. I don't think so. It's been a long time. Maybe, just maybe, put that one in the back of the mind. And I want to throw one other name out there. Yes, we'd love Caleb Brown to get there. We'd love some of the Addison Estrenga after Luke Lachey goes in the first round. Then the following year, Estrenga. Yeah, that sounds pretty good. How about this one? Mention the veterans on the offensive line. Not going to see that. What about Trevor Locke? So Locke showed up on the depth chart, in the spring depth chart that we got. Redshirt freshman, really highly regarded coming out of high school. He's at a guard right now. He's likely going to have to be a tackle going forward. Just a name to throw out there. We're talking down the line, and I get that, but there's been gaps in there too. It's not a yearly occurrence that Iowa is going to have a first rounder, right? And you go back, and Iowa had a 4-year drought after Brandon Scherf was taken 5th overall to the Washington football team in 2015. It was 4 more years before Noah Fant in 2019, along with TJ Hawkinson, went in the first round. So there's been those gaps before, and it could happen again. And when that happens, we're talking about some guys down the line. Disappointing night, though, for Cooper DeJean. He's going to bounce back, though. Hopefully finds a right spot, and maybe finds this spot here. If you're watching on YouTube, the Bears. How about the Bears draft? Love that. You're not here to hear about the Bears. Locked On Bears is where you can go for that one, or Locked On Vikings, Locked On Chiefs, Locked On Packers. Why did they take Cooper DeJean? You can hear all that with our Locked On crew. We continue here, Locked On Hawkeyes, and now we continue the conversation, and it jumps into the transfer portal. There's rumblings, there's rumors. Is there any validity to them? We'll talk about that as we continue. This is Locked On Hawkeyes. I've been told I'm a competitive person. You think that's true? Yeah, if you know me, you definitely know it's true. I have a competitive side, and my competitive side is a big fan of Monopoly Go. I'm sure you heard about it. It's been downloaded over 150 million times. It's a great twist on Monopoly where you play on not one, but hundreds of different Monopoly boards in crazy locations, building up great cities that bring you big money. The best part, messing around with your friends. Charge them rent on my iconic properties, just like in classic Monopoly. But now I can also heist their vaults of riches for myself. And the leaderboard show me who the biggest Monopoly tycoon is. And it's just not my competitive side that loves it. You can team up with friends and people all around the world in time tournaments to earn huge rewards. So get in the game and join your friends. Download Monopoly Go now for free on the App Store or Google Play. That's Monopoly Go for free on the App Store or Google Play. Today's episode of Locked On Hawkeyes is also brought to you by the Gametime app. Gametime is now an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Gametime app actually go down the closer you get to first pitch. Killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee. Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. But that's not all. They have all kinds of tickets out there. Love this about Gametime. Maybe you're looking at that big concert coming up this summer. They got you covered there. Baseball, you're looking forward to the football season, waiting for that schedule release of the NFL, what's happening in college football. They have it all on the Gametime app. And all-in prices shows you that total upfront where you're going to get not stuck with a bunch of fees at checkout. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download Gametime app today, create an account, and make sure you use the code. It's Locked On College. That's going to get you $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code Locked On College, LOCKEDON COLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Trent Condon back with you once again on the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. Thanks for making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen every day. All right, let's continue the conversation and get into the rumors. So we talked about this a little bit a week or two ago. There were message board rumors and social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Look, those things can be ugly. They can be cesspools. You could get a lot of misinformation, and you never want to go too far. You know, I relayed the story yesterday about Deacon Hill, and that was something that was passed along to me, not from a message board, not from that, but actually somebody that would have at least knowledge of the situation. It wasn't reporting. It wasn't getting two verified sources. That's not what it was. It was just passing along rumblings. This one, we're sticking our neck out a little bit further. And again, this comes from a Twitter account that has like 300 followers. Never heard of it before. Never seen it until the tweet was put out. But the thought makes sense. So you look at Ohio State. And we talked about Lincoln Keen-Holtz, the potential. South Dakota kid, the likelihood of playing time not real high. Played in the bowl game against Missouri. Didn't go very well. We talked about that. Kind of connecting some dots, and that was very quickly shot down. Basically said, no, that's not going to happen. All right. So we go back to the drawing board. Well, are we going to look at other schools? No. Let's go right back to the Buckeyes again. So Will Howard is the presumed favorite to be the starting quarterback. They brought in Aaron Noland, who a lot of people really like as a prospect and thought he had a really good spring. One of the guys that at least has a little bit of experience is Devin Brown. Devin Brown, yes, that's the guy that wears 33, and it looks a little weird when he's playing the quarterback position, wear number 33, but kid from Gilbert, Arizona, 6'3", 212, good size, good runner is really what you see. And in his limited action that you've seen throughout the course of his career, you see a guy that runs the football. In fact, throughout the course of his career, just 28 pass attempts as he has played in 8 total games, 16 of 28 as a thrower, 2 touchdowns against 1 interception, but has run the football 23 times just for 24 yards and a touchdown for him in that limited experience. Well, the likelihood of playing time is not real high. He came into the recruiting class with Caleb Brown. All right. Former Buckeye, now in Iowa City. Connecting some dots here. Iowa needs a backup quarterback in the worst way. Marco Lainez is not ready. The Iowa offense is changing, evolving. You need somebody that can come in, somebody with some kind of experience. And with Cade McNamara and his injury history, you have to have something. Is it going to be Devin Brown? Who knows? Does Iowa have the ability to go out and get one of the top quarterbacks in the portal? That's not likely. Look, you're not handing the job to Cade McNamara, right? It's just, that's not the way that it works. It's just, that's where we are right now. You're not going to just say, all right, you're the guy. You know, you kind of go through and you look at what's happened out there. A guy like Aiden Childs at Michigan State. He comes in from Oregon State. Yeah, that makes sense, right? Cam Ward, he's going to go from Washington State to Miami. You get that. This is a different spot. With McNamara already here, with the sweat equity, I guess, that he has built up, yes, it is a different scenario for him in order to make this happen. Look, the most frustrating part is at minimum, we knew that there was some general interest with Ty Thompson, the former Oregon quarterback. But Iowa didn't have a coordinator at the time. And it was going to take a leap of faith for him after the ineptitude of the offense the last 2 years for him to jump in and say, yeah, I'm going to go there. He would have been perfect. A guy that you can mold, has a little bit of experience. If worse comes to worse and McNamara's not ready, or you just beat him out, he can go that direction. We'll see. There's still a lot of names out there, right? There's a lot of guys that can make sense that you can get. But we're running out of time. We're sitting here now just 4 or 5 days away from the portal closing up. And though there's still abilities and still ways to get guys on campus and make it work, a whole lot better if you had somebody with some kind of experience. Nick Evers, formerly of Wisconsin, would that be something, a direction that you'd be looking or willing to go? Possibly. Colin Schlee, really liked him at UCLA. Big dude, 6'3", 225. But he's a guy from Maryland, potentially. Look, there's names. There's directions to go, but it has to happen. That's the most important part. This Has to happen. You cannot go into a season where you have a very injury-prone, and prone's not the right word. I can't even think of the right adjective. A guy with an injury history in Cade McNamara. A backup that hasn't shown an ability to be able to be a thrower of the football at the Big Ten level, and a true freshman in James Rezar. Just can't. Iowa knows that. They're trying, and let's hope that they get this thing figured out and buttoned up before we come to the close of the portal season. Well, speaking of coming to the close of the season, spring sports are starting to wrap up. We're coming down to the final couple of series for both Iowa baseball and for Iowa softball, and a couple of big opportunities for both the teams. Can Iowa baseball continue their hot streak? They got to take on one of the best teams in the Big Ten in Nebraska. Can Iowa softball get off the schneid and qualify for the Big Ten softball tournament? That as we continue, this is Locked On Hawkeyes. Today's episode is brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook. It's playoff time in the NBA and NHL. Baseball's in full swing. FanDuel is your place to bet on every single game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150 win or lose. You like the sound of that? I like the sound of that. $150 win or lose. That's what they have for you right now. New customers out there at FanDuel. You can bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all on an app that is safe, secure, and it is so easy to use. What are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Trent Condon back with you one final time on the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. Thanks for making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen every day. Wrapping up here with a little spring talk. Spring baseball, softball. I haven't talked a ton about it, and one of the big reasons has been kind of the disappointment of both of these teams. Excuse me, for Iowa baseball, came in with as much hype as Iowa baseball maybe has ever had. Didn't go very well in the non-conference portion of the schedule. And now we look at them and we look at kind of what they are as a team. The likelihood of them qualifying for the the NCAA tournament is not real high. RPI sits at 106 right now. They are 21-15 overall. But their big knock, just 2-6 against quad 1. They beat up on the bad teams, 11-2 against quadrant 4, but also 2 losses in quad 4. Look, it's just not a resume that is likely going to put them in consideration to be an NCAA tournament team. Late in February, they had a huge opportunity at Auburn. Lost that one. Bullpen. Had 14th ranked Virginia on the ropes. Bullpen. And then lost the final game down in Jacksonville against Wichita. Just can't have it. Had another opportunity against an okay Ole Miss team. They're going to be an NCAA tournament team likely, though they're just barely over 500. Shows you the power, though, of the SEC. Their RPI is 26, and they're 22-19 overall. Lose 2 out of 3 there. Lose 2 out of 3 to Jacksonville State. It just hasn't gone well. And suddenly, after a disappointing end of the series against Ohio State, split the first 2 games, lost the first one 8-5, bounced back, get a 3-2 win, and then just get pulverized. And now the getaway game out in Columbus, to get drilled, to get 10 runned, it was rough. Come back and beat Bradley. They sweep Rutgers, another midweek win this week against Milwaukee. And now Iowa baseball walks into Lincoln, Nebraska. Take on the Huskers. Nebraska, very good again this season. Their RPI at 22. But this is not an invincible Nebraska team. This is a Nebraska team that lost 2 out of 3 at the hands of Rutgers. The Rutgers team that Iowa just swept. Over the weekend, Maryland got a win against them. Maryland's very good in their own right, probably a tournament team themselves. Midweek game at home against Kansas, a middling Big 12 team. Nebraska lost. This at minimum, Iowa has to get a win. You can't get swept here. In terms of getting yourself ready for the Big Ten tournament, you have to find a way. Because remember, Iowa, they're coming to their final couple of series of the year. Their end of the season will end not in a Big Ten conference series. It will end in Des Moines against Florida International. because of the way that the schedule's set up and because Wisconsin doesn't have a baseball program, somebody's got to have a bye. And Iowa drew it this year in the final series of the year. So Iowa just has 3 series left. Nebraska on the road, one of the best teams in the Big Ten. An awful Northwestern team. And then at Illinois, another one of the top teams. An Illinois team that's been playing really well here over the last couple of weeks. But if you can win this series, now we're starting to cook. Now we're talking about a little something different for this Iowa baseball team. Again, the likelihood of getting at large bid, it's going to take a ton. But 5 consecutive victories after Illinois, the hottest team in the Big Ten, as the Illini have won 8 straight. Iowa sits right now at 9-6, right in the mix, and potentially could probably get up there and perhaps finish as high as number 2 in the Big Ten and set themselves up in a path that is a much more sustainable. The pitching, the starting pitching has been so much better. Those early season woes in the bullpen are starting to dissipate, and that's where we are right now. Hey, let's jump over to the softball diamond. So Iowa currently sits in 12th place, a tie for 12th out of the 14 teams in the Big Ten. Only 12 qualify. It's a single elimination tournament. But this year it's important. More important than ever because they're hosting. I mean, how bad would it be to not even qualify in a 14-team league for a 12-team tournament when you're hosting? You got to be there. Hate to see what the attendance figures are going to be over at Pearl Field if it does not play out. Ooh, that thing could be ugly. Iowa tied right now with Maryland in 12th place, but 12 consecutive losses from the Iowa softball team. I know they're young. I know Coach Gillespie made a big run last year. They won what equates to the NIT for softball, and that was really good to have. That kind of season was a really good thing. A lot of close losses here. Over the week, they played Tuesday, Wednesday at Nebraska, lost both of those games by a single run, 1-0 in 8 innings in the first one, and then 7-6 in the second game there. Michigan, who is very good, maybe the best team in the Big Ten, they went out there, lost all 3 games, but they lost them by 2, 1, and 1 run. Against Purdue, 2 1-run losses. Little things, small things, just got to be able to button it up. Indiana, they're good, and they got beat. Nebraska, okay. Now it's Minnesota, and you finish up with Illinois. 2 winnable series. Let's get in. We can't be hosting a tournament, a Big Ten tournament, and not have the Hawkeyes in it. Get it done, softball ladies. Thanks for making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen every day. Hey, we got you covered also tomorrow. We're going to have a little bonus episode come your way. I had an opportunity to talk with David Eichel earlier this week, and we'll have that coming in your feeds later today. As always, thanks for making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen every day. We'll talk to you again tomorrow. Go Hawks.